Good afternoon, everyone. Very warm welcome to uh, the last webinar and logical talk of this financial year. Like last 2 years, I would say this year have also been pretty successful in terms of we continuing the series, and we were able to get distinguished guests in in all our webinars. This is the 12th webinar in the series, and I think we this year we actually touched upon some very important topics. We just did not get guests from our from India. We also were able to get some guests from some global guests also who spoke on some specific areas. We had some speakers who were practicing. Chartered accountants, company secretaries, lawyers from reputed law firms, some CISOs, legal heads, global legal heads, and people practicing. So the CEOs of different some consulting firms who shared their great insights from some of the leading consulting firms like BDO, Anderson. We got speakers from various domains, and had been a great year. And all thanks to all of you for being so participative in all our logical talk discussions. And We look forward to bringing more interesting topics. And I request, while I'm starting, I'm using this time for others to join in as well, to keep giving us some suggestions, because uh, we also look forward to hear from you as to what should be the areas we need to talk. And I think you have found this question in your registration link also when you're registering now. So please open up, share your thoughts. What are the areas we should talk about? We'll try and cover on those areas. Once again, warm welcome, and let's begin our discussion for Logical Talk 35. I have with me my colleague Mayank. Yeah, I'm sure you all know Mayank. He is head of our advisory practice. He's a lawyer and a company secretary himself, have practiced and in the regulatory technology space for more than 8 years now. One of the founding members of Lawbit as well. And along with me, Swati, good afternoon.
Hi, everyone.
Uh, Hello. So, and I have with me Swati Lahiri. I'll have a more detailed discussion and introduction about Swati as we go along. But just a quick introduction, and again about Lorbit, and I know this slide by now you all know very well. We are India's leading regulatory technology company, and by all your support and grace, we have been able to repeat the success of last years. In this year also, we'll share numbers, and I'm sure you are seeing the slides getting updated. This time, we are now serving more than 650 plus entities in 40 plus countries, with 44,000 plus locations mapped, factories, branch offices, warehouses, and what all corporate offices and all. Uh, we recently did our NPS survey, which is a 6 monthly affair, and one of the very finest in the SaaS industry is 44.5. Anything above zero is considered good. If we hit 350, is likely to be world class. And Thanks to all of our GCMS users who have been interacting with us, giving us feedbacks, and participating in the surveys as well. And now we are a team of 105 legal and tech professionals and serving clients across globe. Have done projects in 70 plus countries, as you all know. And we've recently started to launched a couple of more solutions for internal audit, internal financial controls, and some regulatory compliance health check services, which we can speak in a different forum. Let's get to the discussion today. Let me quickly introduce, and I'm sure Swati is a known name figure in the CS fraternity, very active in the CS fraternity. And if you have and with her career movements from Delhi to now Mumbai, I'm sure both northern and western chapter people know her now. She is a company secretary with 20 plus years of experience, have worked in different industries, uh, in PSUs, Hindustan media, which all we all know, Hindustan Times, in REC, and now she's the company secretary for and vice president for NAPFID, and she has she's a avid reader, writer. She has participated in writing a lot of some a few articles for us with us also in the past, and very active in the fraternity, I told you, an expert in civil RODR regulations, have been actively participating in the forums, in the discussions, and been giving advice also on our personal, professional platforms to help improve the regulatory frameworks and some of the important decisions, which we obviously will speak as we go along in the discussions. Swati, uh, as I told you in the, offline, but online now, the chase of almost 2 years of bringing you here
Thank you.
ends today. A very warm welcome and thank you so much for all the efforts which you have put in to, curate this webinar with the team. And we excitedly look forward to, your experiences as a company secretary and how it can, ease off the life of the other company secretaries also. So let's get started. Mike, over to you.
Thank you, sir, and a very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our 35th Logical Talk, and it is truly encouraging and a matter of great pride for all of us that this marks our 35th consecutive month of spreading awareness on diverse, unique topics for our fellow professionals. Your continued participation and support have been the key driving force behind this initiative, and we are very much grateful to each one of you for being a part of this journey. At the outset, I would like extend a special thanks to Swati, as Sir has also mentioned, while giving introduction of hers, for joining us in this awareness drive and readily agreeing to share her important insights on this very interesting and important area of concern. Thank you, Swati, for joining us. Uh, the topic we have chosen today is not only timely but also extremely relevant, as it helps to close the current financial year and we can execute the compliances effectively. As we all aware that compliances today are becoming increasingly important dynamic, especially for corporates operating in regulated environment, regulated by SEBI, RBI, or by any other regulator. So a proactive approach towards compliance management is very important, is very essential. So session like this aims to simplify the complex requirements and provide the practical aspects. I would say that the professional can execute their responsibilities with confidence and precision. So here in today's session, as you can see, we will be covering compliances from year end, starting from the month of March to till September, taking into account taking into account the key requirements applicable to both listed and unlisted. So we have made a concise effort to ensure that the coverage is comprehensive, including the major secretarial compliances, along with the practical insights that can be implemented in day-to-day professional work. So one of the key highlights of the today's webinar is the month-wise structuring. As you can see, instead of presenting compliances in a scattered or thematic manner, so we have tried to organize this in a chronological order. So, okay, what are the things that, what are the requirements that you have to perform, that you have to be ready in those respective months. So this approach, will build you, or you can build a clear checklist, clear roadmap of all the actions month-wise, and you can track, plan, execute your compliances accordingly. So I would like to request, let's make this presentation, let's make this webinar not a one-way presentation, but an interactive session, so that we all professionals present here can share our thoughts, can share our perspectives, and the real-time discussions can hope can be discussed. So I would request, please feel free to drop your queries. We will try to address as many as possible queries during the session and end of the all the slides. So I will be taking all the relevant questions pursuant to that slide, and whatever we are left with, we will try to take at the end of all the slides. So I will not take much time. Let's start. Let's begin this session without any further delay. Uh, Thank you so much, everyone, for joining this webinar. Over to you, Swati, for taking this session ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mayank. Thank you so much, Jayant, for bringing me here. And it's a topic very, very dear to my heart. When we were discussing what theme we should do for company secretaries and governance professionals ending the financial year, this is a sort of a concise summary of what I have experienced in the last 20 years as company secretary of listed companies. You see, when I started my career 20 years ago, we were in a group, a conglomerate, which had a couple of listed companies and a few unlisted companies. And somewhere around 31st of March, we used to be a little chilled out. Then by 15th of April, we used to feel a little bit of stress because we had to make the agenda for the first board meeting or compile the annual report inputs from various HODs, or we had to do all the stock exchange filings, which were also coinciding in April. And that is how the stress used to build up. Then by the month of May, mid-May, when our board meeting used to happen to consider the annual financial results, then we used to sometimes face some unexpected issues. For example, the unlisted subsidiary companies annual reports, financial statements are placed to the audit committee of the listed holding company. And there could be different auditors. So if some issue is not closed with the auditor of the subsidiary company, that creates an issue for the unlisted, for the holding company's audit committee. And remember spending time in Saturday afternoon, evening in the office on these things. Then by the time 15th June used to come, this was the time we used to give okay for print for our annual report. So those who were company secretaries in the pre-COVID era would remember that we used to start our annual report very, very well in advance because firstly, of course, the law says 21 days before the AGM. But in pre-COVID era, all the annual reports used to get printed, sometimes in thousands, sometimes in tens of thousands and in lakhs. And all this used to also go through postal department with franking to all the shareholders in the rainy season, which was like printing, binding, so much work. And before that, the okay for print had to be given. And invariably at the very last moment, we used to see that some para has got repeated or some table heading has got mixed up in the final version. So by that time, frustration levels used to hit very high. And then used to come the AGM. AGM was more of a logistic preparation, which is like your statutory register updation, your preparation of chairman's speech. And just after the AGM, we used to have one annual ritual, which is called the technical glitch of filing the annual financial statements. Even today, it happens that we are trying to file the statements and something is not getting validated when we are filling in the form, or the payment of fees is not happening. So nail-biting finish used to happen at the time of filing of annual financial statements. And eventually the annual return used to come, which has a certification from a listed from a practicing company secretary for listed companies. And by the time we used to reach that stage, we used to realize that the PCS is asking the same things, which is also covered in the secretarial audit, which we did in the month of April. So over the years, I realized that this March, April, May, June, July, August, September, this is a pattern which can be predicted to a large extent, and it can be documented to make our life simpler so as to ensure that last minute surprises and pressures do not come. So that's the way this theme, this concept came. And I'd also like to take a minute on quoting Chanakya Niti here. Chanakya says that there are two types of visions a leader needs to have. One is eagle's eye vision, like a bird's eye view of the entire topography, and one is insect vision, where you look at the minute details and the very next step in front of you. So the idea, as Mayank was mentioning about this session, is that we are trying to cover both eagle's view and insect view of all the things that all of us company secretaries we have to do in listed companies from March till end of September or October, when your post AGM filings are happening, so that we are well prepared and we can schedule our times better, not only manage our time better, but also manage our energy better. So first of all, I would start with Companies Act. As you can see on your slides, ensuring the CSR spend. We all know that the CSR amount which has been planned for the year has to be spent by 31st March. Otherwise, the amount has to be transferred to unspent account, or in case it's not pertaining to ongoing projects.
Let me just try and give a couple of perspectives. See, idea is that between March end till April, these are the time when two important, couple of important things are happening in every organization. This is the time when you are also, every organization is having their strategic discussions, strategy meetings, which are deciding the future of the organization, laying down the foundation for the next year. But at the same time, you are also have to do a lot of these filings, and specifically, from a, for any finance person and as well as the CS, they have to do a lot of these filings, a lot of this paperwork. Now, while I would say the finance structure function has a different kind of a structure, the CS function typically has lesser manpower and lesser resources as compared to finance. So a company secretary himself gets too engrossed in the regulatory filings than focusing on the strategy. So if you are able to plan this time well, the idea is the company secretary can also play a very important role in the strategy discussion, which are also happening at the same time, right? As I would say, the other functions like a finance and HR have evolved. While it is crucial time for them, but they are still the way they've structured, the way they manage, they are able to get the time out for strategy as well as the important year-end requirements for them. That has been one of my favorite topic I always talk about, and while I talk in the forums for with CS, that we have to always plan to be part of more strategies. Swati, you're back here. So
Sorry, there was a technical glitch. So coming back to CSR spend, it is better that around 15th or 20th of March, you should ensure that all your CSR amounts are reconciled and you have fair idea of what is going in unspent, so that you can take appropriate board approvals in the first board meeting held after the financial year. This is something to be done closely in coordination with the CSR and finance department. Ensure all the meetings are done. What we can miss, normally audit and board, we all plan, but risk management committee, which says like 210 days gap has to be there. So it is possible that, you have not done the compliance of that, or maybe independent directors meeting, which has to be held once in a financial year. So these are the things we should ensure before the year closes, so that any gap is not then, you don't have to report it in your CG report. Policy renewals. You see, there are some policies which are in law only, it is written like RPT policy says once in 3 years we have to review, or related or a risk management policy has to be done once in 2 years. But other policies also may have to be reviewed from time to time. In the annual secretarial compliance report, which is given by PCS, they mention that whether there have been regular policy reviews or not. So if your policies have not been reviewed in the last 5-6 years, and there have been some changes in law which may require this to be seen, then this is a good time that before the year ends, just have a look at what policies the secretarial function has and where any kind of change is required because of any change in law. Updation of statutory registers. Of course, the very next week, your auditors are going to come and sit in your office. So good time to complete that if anything is pending. Review the material and omnibus RPTs. Normally, many companies take omnibus RPT approvals in January itself, in the January board meeting, because April or May board meeting may be too late. If they have a conglomerate and there are frequent related party transactions which are repetitive, then April and May could be a little late, as already from 1st April onwards, transactions must have started. So ideally, omnibus approvals should also be taken well before the financial year starts. Private placement. So companies which raise NCDs on a regular basis, they take approval of shareholders once in a financial year, and that limit may also be getting exhausted in the coming AGM. So look at that limit and ensure that you know what is the time you need to take your private placement approval from the shareholders. Secretarial audit, we of course have statutory audit going on one side, but secretarial audit also, my feeling, don't leave it at the last moment. Try to see if some part of the audit can be completed in September and December quarters only, so that again there are no surprises left for the last moment. But even if you have, then have the secretarial audit planned well in advance.
So
Sometimes the auditor may
in fact,
want to visit your, yeah,
we can plan the sectoral audit in quarterly basis also. So for
yeah.
all the quarters we can do, and at the end of the year, that kind of pressure would not be there if we are planning the sectoral audit on a quarterly basis. So I think you can better give your views, so that how we can plan this sectoral audit, so that we can timely close this audit. So is it the good practice to have this audit on a quarterly basis, or on a half yearly basis, or on a yearly basis?
So my view is that half yearly, that September quarter and December quarter is something that I've practically seen happening, because even if there is anything which there's a gap, you know, or anything you've missed out, your secretarial auditor can point it out well in advance, and you have time to take corrective action. Otherwise, if everything starts in April, then you have no time to do any kind of corrective step. There are also secretarial auditors who say that we want to go and visit your factory location, and we want to see the factory records or the labor law records, etc. So that's one. Then secretarial auditor may have to come and sit in your office to see the minutes, and this is also a busy time when the statutory audit is sitting. There are no meeting rooms and all. So from a logistic and operational point of view also, having the dates of secretarial audit planned well in advance really helps. Now, coming to the new thing, TCWG framework prescribed by NAFRA in the 7th January 2026 circular. So, Jayant, as you would be aware, NAFRA came up with a circular in 7th of January, and it is asking all the organizations covered by NAFRA to have those charged with governance. They should be determined. Although this practically this was already being done by all the audit firms, but now they want this to be documented. The meetings with those charged with governance and the auditors should be those meetings should be having some agenda. The minutes of those meetings should be made. At least 2 such meetings have to be made. The framework has to be approved before the audit commences, and the meetings have to be also, minutes have to be also reproduced, placed before the audit or board meeting in the year. So this is something, again, a good time to have a look whether your company, your organization has taken the necessary steps for the TCWG framework prescribed by NAFRA, as the audit for the next year would be commencing shortly. So these are the things which are coming under the umbrella
Swati,
of
I
Companies
have
Act.
one question with respect to
Yeah.
this circular, because
Mm-hmm.
as this circular is very new, maybe
Mm.
our fellow members, might be aware of this circular, because in pursuant to this circular, there are some compliances need to be implemented at the earliest possible, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm.
So I want to ask what practical challenges we may, face in its implementation. So because there are certain there are certain activities, or there are certain compliances which we need to implement, or which we need to uh, we need to suddenly start as per this circle. So what are the practical challenges a company can face?
Firstly, there has to be a preliminary discussion with the auditors about the interpretation of this circular, because Mayank, what I've seen is that industry is interpreting this circular in various manners.
Right.
People are, first of all, the thing was when this came, it was written that you have to place it in the board meeting and the audit committee meeting, and people were interpreting even that we don't need to do that. Where is it written? What is the need? But good governance says that this is something which NAFRA has indicated that not only we want the comfort to be there between the auditors and the TCWG on the matters, critical matters of audit, which need to be discussed between them, but they also want record keeping of that. Vasanta is asking, please elaborate the circular. So you have to
Right.
first of all read the circular. This came in 7th of January, and it says that those charged with governance are people over and above the audit committee, like some independent directors or maybe the whole board. And that is the prerogative of the auditor to determine who is the TCWG of that particular company. So every company will have TCWG defined as per the consultation with their auditors. It can be different for every company. It can be full board for some, it can be only audit committee for some, it can be audit committee plus some other independent directors for some. This is open to interpretation company to company. Then there is a requirement that some meetings should take place during the year, at least once before the audit commences and once before the finalization of accounts. And these meetings have to be documented. So this is over and above the regular audit committee and board meeting that happens in the year. And the third thing is what agenda will be discussed in this TCWG. That is given in the NAFRA circular. There are certain points which they definitely want the auditors and TCWG to discuss. And minutes of that meeting have to be prepared, which means company secretary also comes into the picture by default. And those minutes have to be placed in the meeting of audit committee or board later on. So that's the whole premise of this circular. Your auditors must have already discussed this in your respective companies. And what you need to do is to ensure that the framework is in place and the documentation of such meetings are planned and the documentation of such meetings are recorded. And you are in the loop as the CS. So that's about the TCWG.
I have observed one point while reading this circular that and please correct me if I'm wrong, that each and every oral communications happening between TCWG and the auditors should be documented as well.
So each and every oral, firstly, what was happening is that there was no record maintained of the communication between TCWG and auditors, or even if it was maintained, it was not mandated. So NAFRA is only mandated that your communications, emails or logs of meetings and all should be recorded. So yes, now the email trail and all needs to be captured. The way auditors prepare their working files for audit. Similarly, these things have to be additionally created. And now this is not only auditor's responsibility, company also comes into picture. Because what discussion company is having with the auditor, actually it has increased the responsibility on both the sides. Not only the auditor, even the company's responsibility has increased, because tomorrow company cannot say that, auditor ne aisa socha tha, hame pata nahi tha. It is now the responsibility of both the parties which has got increased, because there's a document to which both of them are going to agree when these things are minutized and written. So this is actually creating more load, more pressure on ensuring good governance. It's a step in that direction, but one has to be very careful when the framework and the documentation is recorded. These are perpetual records subject to scrutiny, so you have to exercise due care and caution, just like the way you do in normal board minutes.
So for our company secretary, there are additional 3-4 compliances as per
Yes.
pursuant to this circular every year.
Yes.
We need to remember and proactively manage those compliances.
Yes. Right. So next is SEBI LODR.
So Anurag is asking that whether this circular is applicable to all companies or unlisted public companies having PUSC of 500 crore or more, or 1,000 crore or more. So is there any threshold or limits that is that NEFRA is telling us that okay, this circular is going to be applicable on such and such companies?
It's written on the very face of the circular only that there are 4 or 5 categories which are mentioned. So even non-companies, like my organization is not a company under Companies Act, but for us also it's applicable. So the subsidiaries of listed companies and threshold limits, it is mentioned very much on the very face of circular that to which all companies this is applicable.
Okay, we can move forward.
Coming to SEBI LODR, we have to identify market cap-based compliances which are applicable to top 1000, top 500, top 250, top 100. So like you're in top 100, you have to do your AGM within 5 months of closure of financial year. Or if you are under the top 250, then there are BRSR assurance frameworks which are applicable, or materiality, rumor verification frameworks which are applicable. Top 500 compliances are there. Top 1000 BRSR becomes a very important compliance to be ensured based on the market capitalization. Then you have to make the quarterly filing plan. I'm getting some questions in between. Mayank, I hope you are just taking a note of it. We'll
Swati,
take it at the end.
yes, yes. So I'll be asking these questions, I think after the end of this slide.
Yes, right. So why? Because suppose at the end of 31st December, when market cap list is released by the stock exchanges, if you are in top 1000, then you have that time to think and plan that you have to make a BRSR because you're falling in top 1000. So you have to ensure cross-departmental communication, and that necessary capability should be there in your organization, so that at the end of the financial year, you are well prepared to bring out your annual report. All this work has to be planned well in advance. It cannot start at the very end after 31st of March. Actually, this market cap based, we have taken it in this slide, but this should be done in January only. So identify what is your market cap based on the BSE and NSE lists which are released, and see what new compliances, if any, if your bracket has changed, then see what new compliances are applicable to you. Secondly, make the quarterly filing plan. We all know the shareholding pattern, the integrated report, the notice of board meeting, the outcome of board meeting. So have the list ready, because the next step is to identify the data providers. All the information of quarterly stock exchange filings cannot be done alone by the company secretary. There has to be some data, like investor complaints will come from the RTA. The cyber security incidents will be provided by the CISO. Finance team will provide you some inputs. Various HODs may provide you information related to Regulation 30, materiality, etc. So we have to identify which all, when we have the list ready with us, we can identify which all other departments or other agencies are going to provide us this data for compliance, so that after 1st of April, we are well sorted out. That's the plan I work with. Next is ensuring the website as per Regulation 46 and Regulation 62 for debt listed entity. The best time for having independent director meeting, separate meeting, it is up to them actually. We can only tell them the requirement, but it is prescribed under the law to have it once in a financial year. So you should give the freedom to them, because actually that meeting is happening without the presence of KMP and even the company secretary. Company secretary can come only if they want you to join, otherwise not. So give them the provision and let them decide, and ask them if they need the support. That's my way of tackling it. Why website is important is because your auditors who will come, they will check, at least secretarial auditor will definitely check that whether everything which is written under Regulation 46 is placed on the website or not. So this is also something it's pending. You should just have a look at it and ensure all the ducks are in a row. Disclosure planning. This is the time we prepare the director's draft disclosures, your
Can we
MBP
appoint
1.
someone to audit our website disclosures? Or maybe from someone from within the organization or any external party, so that we can ensure all the disclosures pursuant to those regulations have been met.
I think there are firms which are offering these services, website audit. I have seen at least a couple of people have spoken, like, they are offering this service, and it's actually very technical. If you go to Regulation 46, it has subheads and this and that and cross-linking. Plus, these links are posted on NSE, BSE websites. You cannot change these links. You have to report any change to the stock exchanges. So it's a good idea to have an external auditor in case you do not have in-house capabilities and the CS team is small. Then it's a good idea to have that audited well before the statutory audit starts.
Okay.
MBP 1, DIR 8, we all know all this has to go from 31st March. We need to have their names, their relatives list, etc., because that will prepare the feeder for our related party list as well, which will go into the financial statements. So disclosures also make the standard set in advance prepare the disclosure separately for independent directors, separately for nominee directors, separately for whole-time directors, and also for your senior management personnel, because they have to confirm number one code of conduct, because a certification to that effect goes into your annual report. And also they have to confirm that they are not interested in any transactions which have a potential conflict of interest with the company at large. So all these disclosures you have to put down the format, at least you should freeze in March so that in April it becomes smooth. And corporate governance compliance means, I'll share a little anecdote here that once I had a team member, this is about 5 years ago, I had a team member who came to me in the month of February, and she said that my marriage has been fixed in the month of April end, and I want a leave for 2 or 3 weeks at that time. Until that time, I will not be able to stay late beyond 6:30 p.m. because I have to go for my lehenga fittings and shopping and all that. So how do we do that? And this was end of February or beginning of March. So what I did was, okay, let me come back to you tomorrow. And I made a list. The way you are seeing this presentation, I made a simple list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 30, 35 line items. And I said from 1st of March till 15th of May, post board meeting, till the time we file our board resolutions in MGT 14, these are all 30, 35 things we have to do. And let us sit every morning and check what all is going on. Wherever you are not having the time, I'll fill in. But let us have this documented plan in place and check it every day. And once I started having this checklist, I felt so much in control by the first week of April that I realized I should replicate this post 15th of May also. And I started what all do I need to make for my annual report. Then I also added AGM and post AGM compliances. That is how this March to September checklist was born in my mind. And I realized that this is giving me an edge, that I can foresee what is going to come. And not only I can do the routine compliances, but sometimes I can come up with suggestions to my promoters or to my CFO, etc. That instinctive insights used to come that this is going to happen in July. Why don't we do this in June? So that's how this compliance planning started. And when we are at this topic, I remember that this CG report, corporate governance report, I used to start making it in March only. I used to complete it. Only some data like sitting fees or investor complaint would come after 31st of March. Actually, your CG report can also be done very well, 80 to 85% before 31st of March. So ensuring corporate governance compliance means have a look, have you done familiarization programs? Have you taken DNO insurance? Because all that, why are you asking me for list? This is the list. Jayant is going to share the presentation once the webinar is over. So this exactly is the list, which has got, of course, done up very beautifully by the Lorbit team. This is just giving you it in different headers and month-wise chronology
of
of
this webinar will
things.
be available, and in fact, you may request us for this deck also. So we'll for this
Sure.
deck, and the link for this webinar will be available to all the participants.
Himanshi has just shared a link, with on the chat box. You could, fill up your details here, because we can't send it to everyone if they don't desire because of their multiple
Right.
restrictions. So if you really want it, we will share this with you. Just share your, fill in your details here.
Sure. Coming back to SEBI PIT regulations, we have to determine the trading window closure. This happens 2-3 days before the quarter closing, because every company will have its own PIT code. And some may say that, trading window closes on 31st of the month, or some may say that the trading window closes on 25th of the month. So depending on whatever is your code saying, determine the period of trading window closure till the date 48 hours after your board meeting for consideration of financial results. Also check your DP and CP list, your designated persons and connected persons, and ensure that the relevant PANs are entered in the system-driven disclosure of system-driven database of depository. Then the other SDD is structured digital database, which is maintained as per PIT code. You have to ensure that necessary entries are made by the relevant persons who are sharing UPSI with the auditors. That compliance is required around March. And mechanism for annual disclosures under PIT. PIT also requires that all the designated persons will share the list of their shareholding and their relatives shareholding by the end of the after the end of the financial year. So that mechanism of collecting such disclosures should also be done somewhere in the month of March, whether it's online tool or physically or whatever, whatever manner. SAST requires us to make the annual promoter disclosure data, like, if promoter group, somebody has got married, then that person would be counted in the promoter groups. These are the things that if you are a promoter of a listed company, you have to think of those things and ensure that this information is captured in the SDD, the system driven disclosure. Coming to others, there are other compliances also in the month of March. Are you making payments to MSMEs? Then you have to have a system for reviewing the outstanding dues because the compliance is coming in the next month. Are you having listed commercial papers? Because there are again time-bound compliances of record date, payment date, and a quarterly certification in commercial papers. Are you a large corporate? Large corporate is defined by SEBI, and if you are a large corporate, there are compliances coming up in April and May for that. And are you a NBFC or RBI governed? Because then there are again quarterly, annual, half-yearly filings and CRILC filings and filing with data credit exchange agencies. So this comes in this thought process also needs to be framed up by March. And are you a PSU or governed by any ministry or regulator? Because if you are, then there are DP, corporate governance report, annual compliance, quarterly compliance, etc. So these are this is a whole a broad sheet, a kind of a dashboard that we have to follow the web of various laws and see that where everything is getting fitted so that we are smooth sailing from April onwards.
I want to take some questions from the audiences. So Mayank wants to ask, since he is working with insurance company IFCO Tokyo and their accounts prepared as per Insurance Act, so that NEFRA circular applicable to them?
This is something I'll have to read the text right now. I do not have, but Mayank, I hope you've gone through the text of the circular. Right. So it is giving the list. So there are there are organizations which are not in Companies Act are also covered because of some definition which is given in the based on the accounting standards. And if your shares are listed or securities are listed, then you fall in the requirement of NAFRA.
So there are three broader categories on which this circular is applicable. First is the all listed companies. Second is the companies and body corporate as specified in Rule 3 of NEFRA rules. And third is the auditors of the other companies. So here, if you are a listed, despite of in any of the industry, be it insurance or others, so this circular will get applicable to your company.
Right.
Right. There are other questions. Let me take one from Shushanta Kumar. He's asking that his company is a SME listed company with a turnover of 200 crores. The company has all the committees, including CSR, NRC, Audit, SRC, and Risk Management Committee. So what is the requirement of minimum number of committee meetings?
So minimum number of committee meetings are already prescribed under SEBI LODR, and those committee meetings, I mean, it is not necessary that you have to have minimum only. You can go beyond that. The only thing you have to ensure, Sushanta, is that the gap between the meetings which has been prescribed for Audit Committee and Risk Management Committee, that needs to be ensured. And their recommendations, if any, they have to be captured in the annual report. So plan your meeting calendar in advance if possible. It's a good practice followed by many companies that they plan their entire year's calendar in advance so that they can see where the gap is coming or where some director is traveling abroad and timelines are fixed accordingly. So calendar planning would actually help you.
And in fact, if they are planning their committee meetings in advance, so they can also plan their pre and post committee meeting compliances also as per their dates they are finalizing. And if they are changing the dates, automatically those pre and post committee meeting compliances dates will get changed. So I think this is the best practice which we can follow. If for example, if we are scheduling or convening we are planning to convene a meeting in next month or in subsequent months, we can plan for the upcoming compliances as well as we are discussing in this format.
I'd share a small story here, Mayank, that in my younger days, when I was, it was January, and we were on the date of audit committee and board meeting to discuss our results. It was probably 19th of January. And there was some challenge that we were discussing in the calendars of the promoters and the auditors and the directors, that somehow the next audit committee meeting was not possible before 21st of May, which means more than 120-day gap, 120 days of gap. So we were all discussing in the corner office that what do we do, and we were having that time used to be clause 49, the LODR was not there, so we were discussing that law mein likha hai not possible. And my CFO, Mr. Piyush Gupta from HT, he said that Swati, problem mat bata, solution bata. And immediately I said, then we can do one meeting before January and May, and the problem will be solved. Immediately I blurted out. And so, we have to have solution-oriented approach, and a calendar planning like this really helps. I also do this practice that you see, if you cannot plan for the whole year in advance, at least plan for the next quarter in advance. अगले 120 days का calendar आपको हर समय पहले से पता होना चाहिए. अगर आपका चेयरमैन नहीं है उस दिन, ऑडिट कमेटी का ट्रैवल कर रहा है बोर्ड मीटिंग वाले दिन, तो आप मीटिंग नहीं कर पाओगे. यू विल हैव डिफिकल्टी. सो ट्राई टू हैव योर कैलेंडर प्लानिंग वेल इन एडवांस.
I'm taking another question from Prashant. So he wants to know that how he can consider the market capitalization if his company was listed on 11th of March 226, means in this current month. And is BRSR applicable, risk management committee are also required to be conducted?
I'll have to read the fine print of law. Prima facie, they are governed by the market cap list is coming on December 31st every year. So we'll have to see. I'm not very familiar with the companies which are getting listed in the end of March, whether they should be applicable and getting covered under this provision. We can look at the fine print later and connect with him later on.
Okay, so we can move forward.
Sure. Coming to the Companies Act, this is a drill down of the last slide was actually the bird's view. This is more of a little insect view on the same thing. Going to April, now we have got the framework, the clarity of picture, clarity of thought in our mind. Now we need to look at the line by line items, like we have this on the screen. You can have a look. I'll leave this slide with the audience for a moment so that they can take a fill in from what we are writing. MBP1, DIR 8, Section 149 declaration by independent directors, we all know. MD and WTD, check the tenure and remuneration. As we know that tenures of MD and WTD are 3 years or 5 years, something which has been determined by the shareholders. So we should always check in the month of March or April that someone's tenure is not coming to an expiry, because then you need to take that item in the shareholders meeting. And for taking it to shareholders meeting, you have to get it recommended through the NRC and board well in advance in April and May. So this is a 6-month planning. You have to do back calculation and take that stock taking right now. Then auditor, statutory auditor, you have to see whether the term is coming to an expiry, renewal is due or not, whether remuneration needs an approval. General consent under SS1. This is one often missed item. SS1, Secretarial Standard 1 says that for taking items of unpublished price sensitive content before the timeline prescribed under SS1, like less than 7 days, you have to place that agenda. For that, you need to take a general consent from the board of directors. So this general consent should ideally be taken in the first meeting of the board that is held in the financial year. So April or May, your first board meeting that's happening, you can include this agenda. Director's retirement chart. When you have a number of directors, you have to see which was the director retiring last year, last year, and then based on that, you have to determine who's getting retired this year. So that's director's retirement chart planning. Why? Because again, the agenda for that will go in April and May, even if your AGM is in August. Dividend planning. Are you planning to give dividend in the AGM? So the actual fund transfer and all will happen at the date of your AGM, but the planning of record date, intimation, etc. needs to be seen based on when exactly are you planning and whether it's interim or final. So you need to have a look at the dividend planning also well in advance. And based on that, we will finalize the agenda for the first board meeting of the financial year. We will also seek inputs from board's report and other annexures from various department heads, because again, the company secretary alone cannot write the board's report. You would need finance, risk, HR, business heads to provide you data so that you can start drafting the director's report. And certification on spending of CSR funds, which is given in the CSR report. This certificate you need to take from your CFO. So that also needs to be planned.
While planning the director's retirement chart, uh, do we need to consider the directors retire by rotation?
This is for retirement by rotation only. So there may be some directors which are non-retiring, and there may be some directors which are independent directors. They would not be counted. So rest of the directors would be retiring by rotation.
Right, and maybe we can consider if some WTDMT's terms getting going to end, so we may plan accordingly.
Exactly. So again, as I said that, even though the gestation period of planning this compliance is very long, even if the AGM is happening in August or September, the thought process has to start from April or March. So that's why this is here on the deck. SEBI SAST, we already discussed. One compliance. SEBI PIT, we also discussed. The DP disclosures have to come in the month of April. Whatever your code says, 15th April, 30th April. This is also a good time to plan a training for the designated persons about the compliance of SEBI PIT code. And also your code, generally the code says that a monitoring report has to be provided to the audit committee or board quarterly or annually. So based on whatever your code says, you have to also look at the report that has to be prepared for audit committee or board as an agenda. Coming to LODR, we have some compliances which are done with the RTA's help, like reconciliation of share capital audit, 74.5 certificate. There is Regulation 7 filing of RTA, which is also done in the month of April. Integrated filing has to happen, which covers your corporate governance, investor complaints, shareholding pattern has to be filed. Notice of board meeting has to be filed. So a board meeting date should be known well in advance. Record date, if applicable, for any corporate action. Board and directors evaluation also should be completed by this period, because the report would go to the NRC and board in the first board meeting of the year. You have to also check the secretarial auditor tenure. Last year, there was the change in law that you can appoint secretarial auditors for up to 5 years tenure. So just check. Most of the companies would have done it by now. So just check whether the tenure of secretarial auditor needs any review. Notes for Q4 financial results. Even the financial statements or the finance department would need inputs from the company secretary for certain notes like related party or like share capital changes if they have happened in the year. That would also come from CS team. So start planning for that in advance so that it's not a last moment pressure building thing. There are various certificates to be taken, like the certificate on the corporate governance report, which can be taken from auditor or from a company secretary. Then CEO, CFO certification under Regulation 17, non-disqualification certification from a practicing company secretary, which is going in the annual report. So these all certificates should be planned in this particular month. Listing fee and depository fee payment happens in this time period. And the initial filing by large corporates also has to be done by 30th of April. So this is an overview of the compliances for SEBI LODR. MSME 1 form has to be filed again in the month of April. So ensure that you have data on time and you are not waking up on 25th of April when you are just 3-4 days ahead of the last date.
Yeah. So
there was a question about board evaluation. So normally it is taken aligned with the end of the financial year only. Some companies take it before that, some companies take it after that. As long as it's going in the first meeting of the financial year, it's a practice followed. Like both the practices are followed in the industry.
Swati, there are a couple of other questions as well.
Yeah, please. Sure.
So Mayank Garg is asking whether under the SEBI PIT regulations, the closure of trading window is mandatory required in respect of the declaration of financial results. So he wants to know whether the trading window is also required to be closed when any other UPSI is proposed to be considered, generated, or transacted by the company.
Yes. So there is a list of UPSI which would be covered in your code. For example, interim dividend. Suppose you are doing an interim dividend in the month of February when your quarter three board meeting of financial results has already happened and the trading window is open, and your Q4, your financial year trading window is not yet closed because it's still not March, but you're in the middle of February, you are doing a board meeting to consider an interim dividend, then you have to close the trading window separately for that particular item, and any other item which is listed out into your code. And for that, you need to do the necessary compliances of trading window closure and inform your DPs also accordingly.
Deepak wants to know, is there general approval under SS1 for UPSI to be taken annually or once taken valid for the rest of the life of the company?
It should be taken annually and also whenever there's a change in directorate. That's what is written in SS1.
Okay. Seema Agarwal wants to know DIR 8 is required only from directors who are retiring. So she is asking that DIR 8 is only required from the directors who are retiring or from all the directors.
Good practice is to take it from all the directors. That's what the auditors also insist.
Okay. And Swati, I have want to know, so if you can quote some example of material events that to be monitored or that company can consider during this period, or if there are some material events pursuant to Regulation 30 or any other events that they need to plan or they need to disclose. If you can quote some examples as per your experience.
Sure. So see, we already spoke about auditor change, if it is in the pipeline, director change, if it's in the pipeline. But I think the bigger challenge for company secretary, if you look at the part A, para B of Schedule 3, so incidents which are under the second part, which is the business related part, are actually more difficult to monitor. Why? Because the first part covers information which is generally in the domain of company secretary and the finance function, which works always very closely. But the other things, like you are getting into a business agreement which is exceeding the materiality threshold limit of Regulation 30, or there is a commencement of a factory, or there is a guarantee which you are giving, a third party guarantee that you are giving, which is material. These are the things, those items which are in the B part of Schedule 3. Those are the things for which you need to give a prior training or some sort of a sensitization to all your senior management people, to your heads of departments, because they would not know that this is a SEBI LODR requirement, and you would not know when that's happening on the ground. And the timelines are very strict, 12 hours or 24 hours of reporting. So separately, I would advise that it's a good practice to sensitize about the reporting requirements of Schedule 3 to all your HODs and specifically to the respective departments. Some would pertain again to HR. Like, a senior management appointment is going to happen. Some business head is going to come and this will go to NRC or board. But if your HR is not aligned, then you may miss a compliance in that case. So keep those people informed in advance. Maybe make a small presentation of 2, 3, 4 slides that this is what the law says, and for this I would need my internal audit head to know, or for this I need my CHRO to know, or for this I need my treasury head to know. You should give them an idea that this is, if these things happen and they are beyond this particular threshold limit, then you need to inform the company secretary so that we inform the stock exchanges with due approval within 12 hours or 24 hours reporting time period. So that is the process I would like to advise for Regulation 30 compliance.
Thank you so much, Swati. And as we were discussing April month's compliances, one point just came in my mind that if there is any CSR obligation remains unspent for the last financial year, that what are the best practices available with the company secretary, that how I can make that amount, or how I can make those compliances good, or how I can spend that obligation which remains unspent for that last financial year. What are the measures available for me as a company secretary? What are the steps I can I can take? What are the good practices as per your good experience?
So the best practice is to review this in March and not in April. That's the first best practice I would like to advise.
Now we are sitting in April. So whatever had happened, now please suggest us that what is the measures for curing that?
So again, I would go to the preventive side of compliance, that when you are selecting CSR projects, that identification should be clear, that whether these are ongoing projects or not ongoing projects. And based on the ongoing and not ongoing, this distinction comes that whether the amount of unspent will be transferred to the within 30th of April to the unspent account, or whether the amount would be transferred to the government fund within 6 months of not being spent. So that compliance is something that after 31st March you can't do much about it. That planning has to be done in advance, and the best practice is to have a reconciliation or review somewhere before the year ends, so that you are well prepared, and align your finance department to make the fund transfer within the timeline.
And if we have decided to transfer that unspent amount and unspent obligation in PM care fund, so means are we required to take that agenda in the upcoming board meeting, or means discussing with the key people with MD, CFO, or directors are enough to transfer that amount?
Actually, you see, this is all determined in the time of CSR plan, which is approved in the beginning of the financial year when profits emerge. The figure is clear that what is the profit. So for FY 25-26, like we're at the end of FY 25-26, we would have done a CSR plan somewhere in April or May of last year. And we would have identified what all ongoing projects are there. And if there is anything which is not spent, we will go to PM Cares Fund. We would have kept a residual option at that time. If you have got that approval in the place in last year only, then you do not need to do any further compliance. You can transfer the fund. But if you have not taken an appliance, then the ideal way is to do a circulation or a resolution, a circular resolution at the time of before the financial year closure, so that it's with the approval of the board, because final authority to approve that spend is board of directors. CSR committee recommends, board approves. So the right way is to take the board into confidence. Either you plan it in advance, foresee in advance in the last year's initial board meetings only, or take the compliance now before the year ends, but with board approval.
Okay, thank you, Swati. We can move forward.
This is a busy slide. First board meeting of the financial year and agenda controls. Not all of this has to be prepared by company secretary, but the controls, administrative controls, have to be with the CS. So I'll again leave everyone with this slide for a few minutes. In the meanwhile, I would just like to talk about one term I learned in my PSU experience. It's called administrative controls. You see, IAS officers, they get transferred from one location to the other, and one department to the other, and one geography to the other very fast, in a gap of 1 year or 2 years. And within joining, immediately they are expected to sign files and, take big decisions impacting people and impacting money very quickly. So how do they do? So there is a concept called administrative controls. This slide is actually about administrative controls, like, whistleblower policy probably your HR is taking care of, or CSR probably your CSR team is taking care of, or operations, banking operations and borrowings, your treasury may be taking care of. But what you need to do is to have a list of everything that needs to be going in the board for the first meeting, so that you can sound off the concerned HODs that this is going to come up, be ready, be prepared, so that they also start realizing your value as someone who's proactive, someone who's giving them a heads up, and someone who is helping the business being done without any kind of spoiler.
So it will test the company secretary's efforts and the capabilities, how well they can coordinate with the other departments.
Actually, this is a profile completely dependent on coordination and communication. Is again what I feel. I have been on the employment side only, and I have seen that coordination and communication with other departments, interdepartmental communication, is very important. Again, on this point, I'll share Mayank and the audience here that when we were in PSU, even if our AGM was planned in the month of September, our company secretary used to send a circular on 1st or 2nd of April that this is the annual report requirement. This has to come from risk. This has to come from finance. This has to come from treasury. This has to come from so-and-so. This has to come from so-and-so. The whole circular used to go in the first week of April to everyone, mentioning the importance of annual report. And also because it was a PSU, we used to place the annual report in parliament, in both houses of the parliament. We used to mention that, and we used to give them a deadline a well enough deadline, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, that by this date you send in the annual report inputs. That used to uh, create a very positive aura in the organization, that company secretary is very well planned, very he or she has that necessary foresight, and we have to give this data. So people started using, they started to prepare that data in time and give it to the company secretary, so that annual report is prepared on time. So this helps in your brand building, in your value addition also as a company secretary. I'll not discuss some of the points for the sake of avoiding a repetition. We have already covered in the previous slide. So what we were planning in the month of March and April, we are now taking to the board.
Right.
I just want to ask you one question here. Now, because these data points have to come from different functions, what kind of a challenges typically you have faced? One, obviously, and second, what are the different methods? Because PSU could be different, and in our private companies, and specifically when there are large setups, people are sitting in different cities. Also, sometimes, how do you get those information? How do you coordinate? What techniques, methods you have used to get it from them? Because while a company secretary understand the importance of the date and time, uh, the same importance may not be with other functions for the same data point. How do you create that awareness?
There are the differences in working in different kinds of organizations. If we are working in PSU, we are working in unlisted, listed. So there are the different scenarios, situations, and in fact, if we are working in a promoter driven, or we are working in the management driven companies, there the way of doing executing compliances are way different. So in some companies the coordination is very easy to perform and get that all the information collected in on time. But in some companies, coordinating and arranging all the information on time is very difficult. Why? Because you know uh, it is not necessary that all the departments, all the people, they know the sensitivity, they know the importance of these timelines and the compliances. So that's where the actual capabilities and the role of company secretaries come. How the company secretary doesn't have any option, but he or she has to be very well connected with all the departments, so that that person can get that information on time. So here, if you see, there are 18 agendas, but out of these 18 agendas, in fact for 14 agendas, we need to coordinate with different departments, and we need to finalize those agendas. Because if we are coordinating with some person in that particular department, they will not be having the ready information that they have to share, or they have to give. Again, we have to sit with their HODs, with our HOD, and we have to finalize that yes, this agenda, this point need to be considered in this upcoming board meeting. So here, if there are lot many things, efforts at the back end that we have to, as a company secretary, as a compliance officer, to has to be performed while creating the agenda, and before sending it to the board.
I would just like to add to what Jayant was asking. I have also been the company secretary of a private sector conglomerate where there were multi-locational offices and businesses were scattered across India. So when the annual report time used to come, what we used to do was we used to send a customized email. We used to customize this department se ye chahiye, is location se ye chahiye. So we used to customize all those information things. We used to send an email, not like a PSU and circular and all that. And we used to send that again well in advance. So 31st March was our cutoff. Before 31st of March, we used to tell them that for the upcoming board meeting and annual report, we need all this information from you. And two things which are tips actually, which work very well, is number one, personal touch. You just cannot be an email warrior. You cannot demand everything on email and written communication. You should also have a good a personal connect with all the HODs, so that these things become smoother when the actual time comes for implementation. And second thing is the advance heads up. If you give them requirement in black and white, and that too on mail, a little bit in advance, then they are mentally prepared, then it is not a surprise. And when you are finally following up for the data, there is no, you have a hands up, you have an upper hand in terms of negotiating, because you can say कि मैंने तो 31st March को भेजा था. So the ideal thing is to have the clarity of thought that what all I need from home. When you have that, then ways and means can be different. Either you do it from a mail or a personal memorandum or a circular to everyone, whatever, or your team's messages or anything. But the thing is that, and finance also does it. When the annual closing comes, most of the finance departments, excuse me, shoot a circular that for the annual closing, we want this confirmation from all the departments. So same thing, company secretary should also do that you give the indent of the information early and have a personal touch, so that it doesn't become a difficult situation for any one of you at the end.
And in fact, deadline must be conveyed to each and every HODs, to each and every spoke of that department, that we need the final data, final information from you, from your side by this date. Because again, all the compliances that we are doing are time bound.
So we have seen the first board meeting agenda. Now look at what we need to have in place before we proceed for our AGM. If you have managerial remuneration, the working of profits under section 198 has to be separately calculated as against your P&L.
Swati, you may want to
Yeah.
you may want to take a minute and sip some water. You seems
Just give me a moment. I think
Sure,
I have
sure,
not
please.
kept a glass close by. So Mayank, just handing over to you for a moment.
All right.
Sure.
So what are the board approval statutory reports that we need to consider right before AGM, and where just right before the AGM and before the board meeting, where we have to approve those reports and stat part. So these are the key board approvals and the statutory reports that we have listed down in this slide. Like for example, if we have to increase or decrease, or to to take the approval of the managerial remuneration of WTDs and MDs, we need to work out. We need to get that working from the finance department, from the CFO, that okay, if we need to get that approved, we should be having that working in advance. CSR plan for the next year, that to be placed in the board meeting. Again, the cost record, the cost audit, as we know that cost auditor must be appointed every year. That appointment must be ratified by the shareholders, and the appointment is must be done by the board members before the AGM. So the cost record audit also need to be approved and rectified by the board members and the shareholders respectively. And then the statutory parts of the annual report, be it corporate governance, MDA, BRSR, CSR report, or any other statutory report, or the audit report, need to be considered and approved in that board meeting. Should be ready, cross-checked, finalized, and we can and be ready for taking those all those reports, audit reports, be it audit reports, statutory reports, in that board meeting. Yeah, Swati, you want to take up?
Yes, another important thing is, once your numbers are crystallized, and if you are a conglomerate and you have unlisted subsidiaries, you may also want to see if any of the subsidiaries is crossing a compliance or a materiality threshold, because then new compliances become applicable for that subsidiary. For example, if you have paid up capital or turnover or net worth of your subsidiary crossing a particular number which is prescribed in the company's rules, then maybe secretarial audit is applicable, internal audit is applicable, appointment of independent director is applicable, or woman director is applicable. So you have to keep checking this limit every year, and this is the time when the numbers are crystallized for the main company and the subsidiary companies.
Not only for our company, for our subsidiaries as well, we need to take certain approvals, right? As you have mentioned, the material RPDs need to be approved for our company as well as for our subsidiaries also. So these are the key important points we need to consider while preparing for that board meeting in AGM.
Right. And then remember to appoint your e-voting agency and scrutinizer also with the board approval during this time, because that you'll need for the AGM.
Right.
Coming to statutory reports and filings, of course, the outcome of board meeting when your annual accounts are approved, and any decisions that board takes and whether they are falling under Regulation 30. Second is your filing of financials and XBRL, related party filing, modified and unmodified opinion, whatever is applicable, that will also go along with the financials. The large corporate final disclosure will also go on the date of board meeting. And secretarial compliance report, which is to be done within 60 days of the close of financial year, that needs to be done during this time period. And PAS 6 filing for unlisted companies.
In fact, the secretarial audit report should also be ready with by that time.
Absolutely.
Right. Uh,
Absolutely.
Rabi is asking, is PAS 6 filing is applicable for listed company? No, it is
Unlisted.
Unlisted. It is applicable for unlisted and specified private companies.
Right.
Yeah. So
there's one thing on the note I've mentioned that we tend to forget. Audit committee has to review the MDA. These things, all the statutory reports like your board report, CG report, and all go to board, of course, MDA also. But audit committee has to review the MDA. So remember to take that agenda in audit committee. And the CSR committee has to review and recommend the CSR report, which forms part of the annual report to the board. So these committee meetings have to be planned accordingly in advance of the board meeting, considering your financials.
There are a few questions. Can I
Yes.
consider? Yeah. So there's one question that CSR project approval can be passed through resolution by circular.
There is no bar as such for approving a CSR project or taking the call on the CSR final amount.
Seema is asking, nothing has spent within 31st March and CSR unspent account has opened with board approval. So we can transfer the amount within 30th April without any further approval of board.
Yes.
Abbas.
I'd just like to add one thing here. When you were passing, Seema, your board resolution in last year, April or May, when the plan was approved, you should add this line in the resolution that at the end of the financial year, any unspent amount can be transferred to the unspent bank account without any further board approval. That will make it all the more crystal clear in your documentation.
Abbas has 2 pointers. The point number 1 is share transfer and transmission report for listed company is dynamic. Since the same is not to be done physically, he is asking whether his understanding is need not or cannot be done.
No, I think his question came at the time we were at the board agenda list, share transfer and transmission report. So we have to confirm, actually, there is a requirement of RTA that a particular audit happens every year, and that has to be placed to the board meeting. The RTA's audit report has to be placed to the board meeting of the listed company. So it is mainly related to that. Share transfer and transmission, of course, is dynamic. That need not be a weekly report, need not be placed to the board, but that was more related to, it was not elaborated in so much detail, but that particular pointer in board slide was pertaining to that RTA requirement.
Abbas, so hope your point number 1 is cleared. Point number 2, are there minimum items that are required to be placed before the board under LODR for every meeting? I think, yeah. So Abbas, yes, as per LODR, there are several mandatory items need to be placed before every board meeting. So next slide is on annual report, how we can plan, how we can plan. And then there are several parts while preparing and finalizing the annual report. And what is the layout for that annual plan? There are several items which are statutory in nature, which are we can say the data, the report that we have to prepare for the annual report. So and very importantly, if if that company is is big in size and scale, and they are that company is listed, for sure they will going to appoint one agency for their annual report artwork, so that they can prepare their annual report as per the theme they want. So every company, they want their annual report get prepared as per the theme they want for this current financial, or basically if they want to depict something for whatever happened in the last financial year, they can convey the same to that agency, and the agency comes up with that fine print that okay, this these theme can be adopted as per the message that you want to convey in the annual report. So the first part is totally being dependent on that theme, whatever we want to convey to our shareholders, to our stakeholders, that okay, whatever we had done in this financial year and what we are planning ahead for the upcoming financial year. So this is the crucial point for each and every company, which where they want to convey any important message to their stakeholders, that okay, through this theme, through this artwork, I want to convey that our company, your company will going to do such things, and we have a vision ahead for our company. So most of the good companies following the corporate governance, they convey good messages, and they convey their vision, their planning for the upcoming financial years in that annual report. So every time whenever I discuss with any of the professionals, I discuss that annual report for any company is very important document. How serious they are about their company can be reflected from their annual report. If they are serious towards their vision, towards their mission, then you can read out their annual report. Their annual report must be specifying all important facts of the past and their vision, that what they will going to do, what they are planning for the future. So here, if I talk about the layout or the parts, there are two parts of annual report. One is the statutory part, and another is the non-statutory part. In the statutory part, there are the notice, board's report, financial statements need to be included. But in a non-statutory part, again, chairman's speech, MDA, and other important information need to be included. So preparing an annual report for a company is not a 1 month or 15 days job. Planning should be, should start from April months onward. That yes, if if now the last financial year is closed, we have to take some time and plan for the annual report that we have to publish, that we have to notify to our stakeholders, shareholders, before 1 month of AGM. And if we are planning AGM in the month of August, so we should be ready with our annual report by the month of July. So these are the important things that we need to plan. I think not from May, June, but from April onwards. The cover page, the theme, the agency. If we are having existing agency, if we want to continue with that agency, we can just approach to that agency, negotiate, and give them the mandate for the current financial year. The table, the contents we need to, contents need to be finalized for this current annual report. The notice, right? What are the agendas? What are the important pointers to be considered in this upcoming AGM? Notes to AGM is also important. So why finalize notice and notes? Both things are very important, and as we had discussed in previous slides, we need to finalize both things as per our planning starting from April onwards. The vision and mission, these are the part of this now non-statutory part. Again, notice, notice, board's report, the part of statutory part. Vision, mission, and the important facts like the YOI growth, or maybe the historical records we can display and convey to our stakeholders in that annual reports. About our directors, about and we can in fact convey the chairman's and CEO's vision through their message statement, that what they are planning and what's their perspective towards the company, towards their stakeholders. About the company overview and performance graphs, again, as I've mentioned, we have to finalize sitting with the CFO that, okay, what are the key figures we need to convey to our stakeholders, right? As there's, if there are certain performance or we can say Y on growth figures or any important parameters, financial parameters need to be provided, then they should be well evaluated, finalized in advance, so that we can convey to our agency that, okay, these are the performance graphs, financial parameters we need to include in the annual report. Again,
One thing
coming
that
with
one thing that we should not miss out is the proofreading of the annual report. We should also, while finalizing the text, also determine and have that plan in place that who all will do the proofreading. Like the financial section can be done by the finance team, the peripheral section can be done by the corporate communication team, like director's profile, photographs. Another thing that we miss out in the statutory section is the photographs of business and site and key personnels, because directors may have their own photographs selection criteria, that I don't want my photo to come like that and all. You may have dealt with directors like that.
and those
Then if you have a
those
factory.
photographs should be, and those photographs should be should be from a varied source, so that there will be no copyright issues. Because many a times, if we are picking up any random picture from any website or from the internet, it can create problem in future.
Absolutely, absolutely. So good companies, they normally do professional photo shoot of their factories or their facilities. And another tip I would like to add is that in the January or March or April, May board meeting, if all your board of directors are coming, plan for a photographer, give the suggestion to your chairman, and get a group photo also done at that time only, that you can use for annual report when all the directors are coming. This also works. When we have done this a number of times. So that's about the annual report planning. I would credit this slide actually to Mayank. This is his suggestion. He has got the left side is all the contents of the annual report. I have added one thing here. Director's report में मैंने 3 चीजें लिखी हैं: business overview, risk overview, and governance overview. So we are not going into the 134 and rule 8 and all those pointers. You already know that. But what I'm trying to say is that some inputs are very key and must be taken from the business. Some inputs are very key and must be taken from the risk part of it, and some information like policy reviews during the year, or the director changes, or the material court cases, etc. Those things are governance pointers which should be taken. So again, you have to look at the last year's board report and mark it, which all will be possibly coming from which all sources. That will give you a good control over these things. On the right hand side is the strategy. अब इतना सारा काम करना है, करेंगे कैसे? So hire agency, as Mayank was mentioning, finalize the annual report layout, seek information. This is an indicative list. It may differ from company to company. One of the challenging areas is conservation of energy and technology absorption. In manufacturing companies, this is very technical data. So you plan this and take it from the concerned factory personnel, which may not be in your city, from another city. So you have to give them a advance heads up. And last is, of course,
In
when you're
fact,
fixing the...
this information is very technical. If and nowadays companies are shifting to a renewable energy, and how much energy they have
energy
produced from
saving.
that source, what steps they have taken during the financial year to save or to conserve the energy. So all those things need to be recorded in this section.
Correct. And when you're fixing the date of AGM, do check the availability of your audit committee and SRC chairman. अगर वो नहीं है उस दिन, if they are traveling or something, then you can have a problem because their presence is mandatory as per LODR. So check that availability also. June. So in the month of June, DPT 3, an important compliance under the Companies Act for listed as well as unlisted companies. Tying up with the banker for dividend, which will come very much on the date of AGM, but you have to identify which banker you're going to work with and what is the tie-up, because there has to be agreement with the banker in advance. IPF compliances have to be planned, because there may be a timeline where your IPF 1 is going to be due, and there may also be a compliance where some transfers are happening in the next 3-4 months. So law requires that you send advance notice to the shareholders at least 3 months before their money or their shares are getting transferred to IPF, and newspaper notice also has to be published. So you have to again do back calculation if you have IPF matters and publish that notice. It would come somewhere around this May, June time only. Letter to shareholders for KYC updation if you have physical shareholders. DIR3 KYC is to be done now every third consecutive financial year. Earlier, this also used to be done around this time. And plan the logistics for AGM. Nowadays, it's very easy with VC and OAVM. And coming to LODR, this is because your annual report has to be sent to shareholders and debenture holders and debenture trustees. So by this time, you should finalize the okay to print version of all your audit report, board report, peripheral pages. Also prepare the XBRL for annual report, because whenever you are sending the annual report to stock exchanges, you will also have to file the BRSR XBRL or AGM notice XBRL or accounts XBRL. So this planning can be done in the month of June.
So is board approval is required to open dividend account, and what are the things that we need to take care while opening such accounts? Is there any such important things we need to consider while opening up this dividend account? Again, for July, Q1 compliances and AGM preparation will going to come at our doors, and you can see for the Q1 compliances, as most of the compliances are, as we had already discussed for the year end now. Again, for the Q1, we need to check and file and ready with these compliances pursuant to SEBI LODR and other regulations like shareholding pattern, investor compliance, CG, integrated filings need to be done. For Q1 board meeting notice to be prepared and sent. We have to prepare ourselves for the outcome of that board meeting of Q1. Q1 results, filings, newspaper publications with the QR code, and the website disclosure of the annual report along with the notice, right? And there are other compliances which we need to follow is to submit the annual report in PDF and XBRL to the stock exchange. About the dividend, if your company is considering the dividend, then again the dividend record date compliances need to be done in advance. So these are the compliance checklist for the Q1 Q1 quarter end, first quarter board meetings and the first quarter compliances. Again, for the AGM preparation, that to be that if we are planning in the month of August, so these are the ready checklists that we need to ensure. Apart from that annual report, apart from that notice agenda that we need to consider while finalizing that date of AGM should be logged. Board report is should be duly approved by the board. All annexures of the board report are signed, are approved by the board. AGM notices as per Secretarial Standard 2, and even and we have to dispatch the annual report and AGM date as AGM notice as per the AGM date. So there's a 21. There should be a 21 days gaps between arranging and scheduling the AGM and sending the AGM notice. So it is recommendable that you should send that AGM notice and annual report at the AGM timeline. Again, there's a compliance to publish the AGM notice in the newspaper. You have to ensure director's tenure remuneration is not getting exceeded or lapsed as per the Companies Act and SEBI LODR. We have to see the secretarial auditor to be appointed, reappointed, and the cost auditor appointment and their rectification in the AGM. Again, if dividend is proposed, we need to be ready with our bank account, even with our the amount that need to be transferred. We should be ready with that amount, because again there's a compliance that we have to transfer that dividend amount within 5 days in that dividend bank account from our company's account to that dividend account. So we need to be ready with that amount in advance.
One more
Again,
thing, I
yeah,
would just add in between, Mayank, that when you are finalizing your date of AGM, just ensure that in the next 5 days there are no holidays. Because otherwise, banks will not be working. You will get less number of days to do the
right.
compliance. So plan it in a way that you have appropriate number of working days to transfer the dividend amount, because that has to happen the very next day. And another thing is scrutinizer's email. In AGM notes, we mentioned that if anybody has an authorization letter to mail, etc., they should mail it on the scrutinizer's email ID. So some companies like to create a scrutinizer's mail ID on their own domain, or they give a Gmail or whatever is the personal ID of the scrutinizer. So you have to ensure which email ID would be used by the scrutinizer before finalizing the AGM notice. Even number has to be generated on the depository portal, because that number has to be quoted in the AGM notice, AGM notes, and e-voting instructions also have to be given in the AGM notes, AGM notice notes, which have to be vetted by NSDL or CDSL. So a whole lot of work. This checklist actually serves a lot of purpose in giving you an idea of what all needs to be done. I would just add some of the documents that needs to be checked at your end before finalizing the AGM, before the AGM date. One is your speech for your chairman and CEO, what they will speak. You have to add certain statutory points like all feasible arrangements have been done to ensure participation in AGM. You have to ensure that expected questions and answers are prepared with the help of your HOD and CFO, that what all questions the shareholders can ask. The registered speakers who register as per your AGM notice with you to ask questions at the AGM, that list should be prepared in advance. And you have to facilitate your VC agency, your facilitators. You have to give them a training that what all are the legal and procedural matters, and on the date of AGM, so that there is no glitch like the way we are having technical glitches today with my connection. And ensure a contingency plan for technical issues. Normally companies take leased line if they are going to do a webcast, so that there is no Wi-Fi fluctuation, or there is no connectivity issue faced by the directors and the shareholders. And recording and transcription, because we see a transcript of the AGM has to go to the website of the company as per MCA circular of 5th May 2020. So these are all the things. Once I asked my secretarial auditors that what can go wrong in an AGM, and the thing he said that first thing is if you do not have quorum. And I asked, what is the second thing? He said, there is no other problem. If there's only one thing that can go wrong in AGM is if you do not have quorum, which is 30 as per the new Companies Act for listed companies. So you have to see, that quorum requirements are met, and you have to confirm that to your chairman before 2 minutes before the AGM starts, so that he can announce that the quorum is there and the meeting is starting. I call the meeting to order. And statutory registers and certificates, it is a requirement. Earlier, when we used to have physical meetings, we used to take the statutory registers to the AGM venue. Now, NSDL, CDSL provide this facility that you can scan the statutory or papers which are meant for inspection on the portal, and they're available to the shareholders during the tenure of the AGM. So that updation also you have to do. And one pro tip is to do test run of AGM with the directors and also probably your speaker shareholders with the VC agency, so that there are no issues, or how to place the camera, how to place the instrument, or whether they want to do it from iPad or from their laptop. This test run should be done at least with the confirmed personnel at least a week in advance of the AGM, so that the AGM is stress free. And another thing is the e-voting starts 3 days before AGM. The depositories send SMS to the shareholders that this is the time e-voting is started and all. So you have to keep your scrutinizer informed that e-voting has started, because just after the AGM, he has to release the results. So this is about the AGM preparation.
So, a quick question with respect to the quorum, how a company secretary would ensure that there should be a proper quorum in that AGM. So, is there any are there any tips that you want to give to them so that they can ensure in advance how they can maintain and come up with the necessary quorum?
So there are three groups of people who are definitely going to join the AGM. One is the promoter and promoter group personnel. So, they should be told that they can join. Then there is the directors and KMPs. If they have shareholding, you should ensure they're joining from their shareholder login, not from normal VC arrangement that
And the
they are doing.
employees
So
also.
that And
the employees also.
if they have shares.
If they are holding,
if they are holding shares. And the third group is the speaker shareholders, because
in
if
fact
you have
that in fact that company has ESOP scheme, so company secretary is better knowing that list, that okay,
list.
who all are holding those who are the employees holding those ESOP, so he can just ask those employees and can
Facilitation
calculate,
should be
okay.
provided. Facilitation should be provided. Information should be provided by the company secretary. It's a good practice. Facilitation should be provided. At the end, that person is joining or not, we cannot force, but we should give them the idea that this is the login, this is the way to log in, this is the time of the AGM. This information can go. And then of course we have on the go when the meeting starts, just half an hour before that, you should monitor the quorum, the attendance from the portal. The e-voting agency would provide you the login view, so you can see 20 people join, 21, 22. So you will get that live number. And 2-3 minutes before the AGM, it is actually, you should tell the chairman that the quorum is more than 30 people have logged in. So you know the quorum is in place. That's the ideal practice.
Can I take few questions from audiences?
Yes, please.
So
sorry about my network issues. I'm just going off and on.
So Arpita wants to know whether approval of both NRC and audit committee is mandatory for approval of remuneration of MD, who's a part of the promoter group.
So MD remuneration has now been exempted, if I am not wrong. In the new RPT provisions, the remuneration of statutory auditors, the remuneration of managerial personnel is not separately required to be taken to audit committee unless it is material. That is what the law says. So NRC approval is of course required, and board approval. But audit committee, if you can check the latest exemption, this has been exempted as per the latest SEBI LODR.
Okay. Rupesh Jain wants to know whether normally auditors ask for board report before signing financials. Otherwise, they put a note in the audit report. So can they approve the board report in May meeting and approve holding of AGM in July?
No, it's again a good practice by auditors that they want. So unsigned report can be, for certain certifications or for their own management representation, they may want the copy of disclosures that you are making. Basically, it's a document. See, first are the financial statements, then is the auditor's report, and based on auditor's report is the board's report. And if there are any qualifications in auditor's report, then management's response has to be on the board's report. So that's the logical flow of the three documents. So as per their own internal audit practices, if they ask for a board's report, unsigned board's report, then this is not incorrect. Companies follow two types of practices. One is that they take the board's report on the very same meeting in which the financials are approved. And some of them take the board report later on. When the financials are approved, both the practices are correct in their own right. Again, telling you about PSU, like, CAG comments till the time they are not finalized, the board's report cannot be finalized, which comes after the auditor's report are signed. So there will always be two board meetings, one for financials and auditor's report, and there'll be one another later on when the CAG comments come, and then the board's report would be approved. So both the practices are correct. And auditor seeking a copy of board's report is also absolutely fine.
One more question. What is the due date for filing XBRL annual report and exchange?
I think it is on the same day when you are filing the annual report in in the PDF or in the portal. 24 hours are provided. So you have to actually, because you cannot do the entire XBRL on same day, you have to do the coining in of the XBRL 2, 3, 4 days in advance. So once your AGM is all done, so from the MCA point of view, we have to, the list, AOC 4, MGT 7, includes MGT 8, MGT 14 of the resolutions passed in the general meeting, DIR 12 for the directors who are appointed, MR 1 if your KMP or MDD, WTD have been appointed in the AGM, ADT 1 if there has been auditor renewal, DIR 3 KYC, which also has a last date once in every 3 years now. CRA 2 and CRA 4 are in case cost audit and cost records are applicable to your company. IPF1, which is linked to the general meeting, which is again an IPF compliance falling under MCA domain, and IPF2, which is the statement of unclaimed unpaid amounts to be transferred to IPF. This is an indicative list. There may be something else. Suppose you have done a particular specific decision, like you have taken an approval for change of the place where you are keeping your accounts, then that form will also be filed. So that would be also covered. So this is an indicative list. These are generally the forms which every company would have to file after the AGM. Then we have the filings with the stock exchanges. That would include the voting results and the AGM proceedings. AGM proceedings are on the same day. So you have to actually keep the draft ready one day before and check it for the final attendance. Publication of chairman's speech in the media. Suppose some companies give it in the newspaper with all the photograph and all the graphs, then that's a Regulation 30 intimation. That also you need to intimate to the stock exchanges. Other actions include signing of the AGM minutes within 30 days, updation of statutory register. Suppose a director has got regularized in the meeting, then you have to make that entry in the statutory register, and maintain all the AGM records properly. This would include, like, your scrutinizer would give you the report on the date of AGM. The time is there, but you normally file on the very same day of AGM. So they would provide you the original copy of all the scrutinizers' records that have to be safe kept by the company. So this all record keeping you have to do. So you would see that the annual closing actually goes on for a period of good 6 months. The same things, but some at the draft stage, then approval stage, then post-approval stage. The same things, but they are spread out across such a large window that by the time more than half of the year is over. And I think, Mayank, we missed one thing in the presentation, adding at the very end, which is adding a holiday for the company secretary. After doing so much work, they should also take a small break to celebrate.
Like
So,
most of the secretarial compliances comes in that period from
yes.
March to September. And if I see from October onwards to till again February, the quarter end compliances that we need to follow if I'm working in a listed company, right? So again, yes, most of the important crucial compliances, irrespective their importance, relevance, all the compliances, most of the compliances comes in this period. So yes, definitely I agree with your ask that this company secretary should be getting a week, at least a week, off after having completing all these compliances.
See, we have so many timelines. Something has to be done within 30 minutes, something has to be done within
Yes.
24 hours, something has to be done in 15 days, 30 days. Regulators often hand out the penalty or the notice very fast that, you have not done this thing in time. I've never seen regulators giving an award to a company secretary that this particular company has done all the filings within time, or there's no late filing, or all the LODR filings are complete. Never such kind of appreciation comes. So we are an underappreciated group. But the fact is that ओखली में सिर दिया तो मुसल से क्या डरना, तो ये सब तो करना ही है. These are all what are covered in this slide. In these slides, they are our bread and butter compliances as company secretary of listed company.
What others see that, okay, these are the compliances that a company secretary means has to do as a part of their job. So the company secretary is even doing all the compliances on time, well before the due date. They never be appreciated. But yes, I agree. I completely agree. They should be appreciated if they are doing and not missing any compliances, mitigating each and every
much risk.
regulatory
Yeah.
risk. They should be appreciated with all the best rewards.
In fact, this presentation, all of those who are still here and who have gone through all slide by slide what all we have presented. So this presentation serves two purposes. One is a referencer that, so much work has to be done. And one is, this is also the appraisal season. So, you would be filling your appraisals, KRA, KPI for the next year. So good time to tell the management that how much work you are doing. So negotiate uh, for I'm getting so many thumbs up for this. So negotiate. This is a good way to show that all the burden on your shoulders is spread out across months and months and months. Actually, if you take the July slide and add it in October and January, you have the full calendar for the whole financial year with this presentation only. You can actually manage a whole lot of things and have a bird's eye view and an insect's view for most of the things. Adding a disclaimer that this is as per the law and position standing on 26th of March 2026. So if you are seeing this recording later on, then do check with latest MC and SEBI circulars if something new has come up, because they come up with circulars very frequently. So that you have to see.
So in fact, we have got one question from the participants before the webinar, that if we go, if we are planning to automate all those compliances, through a tool or through any mechanism, not if they are not planning to monitor these compliances through Excel sheets, so how better they can perform these compliances. I think they can, if they are planning to automate through any means. Any means could be implementing a soft compliance tool, software, or any other method. Yes, they can better implement, execute these compliances, because they need not to remember each and every pointers, because or that tool will going to remind that person that, okay, these are the steps now they have to prepare, right? So I think more, we have received that how that automation helps them, because in what I have seen, that the company secretaries mostly relies on that Excel sheet. So few questions that we have got before this webinar from the participant, they want to know how efficient that automation can work for them.
I have a little different take on this. While I'm very, very pro automation, in fact, in terms of automation insider tool, I'm sure many of you have already taken the tool because of SDD, and you are already working either in house or taken from outside. Board also, a board agenda also, most of you may be having a board pack or a board solution where your agenda is going electronically and you can plan some of these things through the tool. But my point is, number one, first comes the clarity of thought, then comes the automation. And automation is easier said than done, because when you go to actually your IT department to say that I want to do this tool and all, they will come up with so many things. VAPT karna hai, IT security, IS audit, DPDP का भी confirmation चाहिए, contract में ये लिखना पड़ेगा, वो लिखना पड़ेगा. So do automation, but do it with a little long-term perspective. If you do not have automation, it's a very good time to consider it. Do consider automation. It will make your life simpler. But before that, have clarity of thought that what tool you are. Do a couple of demos and see what they are offering, whether it's fitting your plan or not, whether it's fitting your IT security requirements or not, and then only go ahead for implementing the tool. And second thing is, company secretary is an individual position. So even if the AI or the support that you are using through tool, if that makes a mistake, that cannot be penalized. You can be penalized. So human in the loop should not be forgotten. The example I was sharing about my team member who went for her marriage and then came back and all, the fundamental, when I cracked this March to September playbook, the fundamental I used was, number one, plan early, and number two, review regularly. Even if you have a tool, have your review system or MIS system, your team or you, and some of you is just checking that, what is planned, whether it's happening actually or not, because sometimes artificial intelligence should not create a way for natural stupidity. So review, even if you have automation, review it, because compliance may go wrong even if there is complete automation of things. So but do take it. It will really save your time, and it will present things in a very logical and cohesive manner if you have automation.
Thank you, Swati. And with this, we have covered.
See, I just want to add one. I just want to add one point here. See, compliance is always been a thankless job, and it will always remain to be a thankless job. Anything which I would say, uh, and it's true with, I think, everything. When we talk about our security parameters, our fire extinguishers, anywhere, I would say any measures. When I today we all live in high-rise towers. The work which has been done to secure the high-rise from fires, from natural calamities, from earthquakes and all. They always go unnoticed. We never want to pay for them. Okay, that's a human psychology. That's a human mentality. But at the same time, these all things needs to be spoken. Their awareness needs to be created about that. And I would say, I'm sure most of you have already filled in the form to get this presentation. Please get this presentation for yourself. It's not just for us. It's basically meant and done for you. Uh, Create awareness within the organization about what all needs to be done, because these are all pillars of the organization. These are all baselines on which the organization stands. Today, one small mistake, see, you don't file a PF on time, there could be mistake, but you miss on to CBLODR filings. You do a misrepresentation. It has a dent which cannot be measured in money. It could be it could be very very detrimental. It could be reputation loss, which is
Absolutely.
way more. So right awareness needs to be created. And as Swati mentioned, it is changing very fast. I think we have lived, we've been, I think over the last 10 years, we were talking about VUCA world. I think gone are the days when we were talking about VUCA world. I think we should start calling it a Trump world. We are living in a very, very fast changing world. We don't know what changes. So right amount of awareness, right amount of uh, making noise also. I would say not just awareness, sometimes making noise also is important, so that
Yes.
people
Yes.
understand the
Yes.
importance of it, right? And it should not be just done when the pot is boiling, not in
Hmm.
in the month of March, April. Once you have done everything in the month of October, please start talking about it. Use OND quarter to create awareness within the organization, because if any of the functions have to do anything to get those prepare those reports, get the right kind of vendors also, maybe be it for whistleblowing, be it for POSH, or be it for anything else, they would ensure they get everything in place. So create awareness, use these data points. And again, I would say thanks to Swati for helping putting this into such a structure. Uh, this is all of these important points with the right timelines have been put into structure. Use it for your internal discussions also.
Yes, absolutely right. And make your work count. We are doing so much, and it needs to be not only not only you have to be a good leader and a pillar of corporate governance, but you have to also be perceived and seen as a leader and pillar of corporate governance. So when you have your own clarity on all these actionables that you have to do, trust me, if you start working with a checklist approach like this, and you also added your own things like your own AI or any support of automation at your end with whatever your organization permits, you will start getting instinctive insights on your things to do. You would start getting value addition ideas. You will actually start giving suggestions to other HODs because your thought process is very sorted and very clear. So that's the premise of this presentation, to have a clear picture of future. And that's the note I would like to, if there are no more questions, I would like to
We
end
have
the
covered we
webinar
have
on.
covered all the questions
Thank you.
uh, which are being raised and asked by the audiences during this webinar. In fact, there are a few questions that we got before this webinar. So we have covered almost all the questions. And in fact, if we get some questions from the audiences later on, we can uh, share those questions with you and convey your response to them also.
Sure. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Swati. It was, in fact, a very, very interesting discussion. And thank you so much for everyone. We were a little skeptical when we were, choosing this date, and it is also on the Swati's insistence that we would do it today because it's going to be off for many. But I'm quite impressed. Well, it was a 1.5 hour webinar, unlike a normal an hour webinar we do, but we have almost taken 2 hours of this discussion, and people have stayed back till the end. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful audience, and keep sharing your thoughts, appreciations, and suggestions with us. And yeah, there are some important links. These are also being shared with you on the chats. Please use them. There are a lot of interesting discussions which you would find here, and look forward to many more discussions in the future. Thank you, Sashi, Swati. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
and
Thank you,
I hope
Swati.
that we do some more interesting discussions and in future as well.
Thank you so much, Jayan. Thank you so much, Mayank, and a huge appreciation to Lorbit team. They have put together this presentation so beautifully and have given constructive feedback at every step when we were finalizing this. So thank you to all your team, and thank you to the audience for taking out time on an afternoon of a holiday. If you are not working today and you have specially stayed back, thank you so much. Means a lot to me and to all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And on this, on the last note, I just want to take names of all who's worked behind this. Trishul, who leads our Community Connect engagement initiative. We had Akanksha, who heads our regulatory intelligence for secretarial, SEBI, and tax laws. Priya, who takes your secretarial laws, and Himanshi, Akshat, who are part of those community connect engagement teams for putting this entire presentation together and making it successful. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. Have a
Thank
good
you.
day.